All right. So I'm not using the Mac. I have a different computer too that I'm using because this helps the program work. Video keeps going in and out, so hopefully this one works. Okay, so this is Intro to Coding. You might have some practice coding, which you can't use this exact code from home. So I'm going to have you do some coding at home with a different program. So it's going to be a little different, but I just want to show you kind of what it's all about here. Okay, so what I built here, this is just a simple gear train. So you have one gear turning another gear. You might hear weird noise. Now that's actually the exciting part, and that is because we now have a motor attached to it. So this. You might notice similar build as far as kind of the following the rules. You still use a spacer by your gears. Just as far as your build, you are going to use these the stabilizers here. Just same stuff with the double walls. All those rules stay the same, except now uh, through these flat bearings. So through the flat bearings, on one side, whatever gear you want to be your drive, you have a motor. So you screw your motor in to the side, and what you might notice is, and you might, it's hard to see, is instead of using regular screws, you use gold screws. They're motor screws. So instead of using, a black screw, and the black screw gets screwed in with the kept nuts, instead of doing, and the kept nuts are the octopus bolts, instead of this, now you're going to use these little gold screws. So the only main difference is these are smaller. Instead of using the bigger screwdriver, which fits in with the black screws, so right here, you use the smaller screwdriver. So there's a couple little nuances. And so you screw the motor into the side of the wall, and then you might notice that you have a shaft going through. Same thing with the gears, all that stuff, but now it goes into the motor. So now you hear that noise because the motor will turn that. Okay, so you might have noticed some other things, and that is you have this little machine now connected. So this orange cord goes into the computer. That's how the computer program communicates to this, which is the Cortex. This doesn't work unless it's plugged into a battery or battery's plugged into it. That you'll see all these lights kind of flickering. And also there's an on-off switch that you need to have switched on. When it turns on, you'll notice that the lights start flickering green. And the motor is then plugged into a port in the Cortex. So if you look at the screen, this is called Robot C. Now it's probably naturally just in the right communication mode and platform type, but that's something that you would click just to make sure it's in Cortex mode and Project Lead the Way mode. So that kind of gets the language that you really want. So new file, and now this is the main screen you're going to get. So right away, it'll just be blank, and then it'll say task main, and you'll see open and close parentheses. And then these, you'll see these brackets. They look like parentheses, but in reality, they're brackets. Little different, just that's how the coding sort of language works. Okay, so with this build, we have this nice simple gear train. All I want is to have the gears turn, let's say for 5 seconds, and then I want them to stop. A lot of the work we do is in what's called natural language. So if we click that, then all these different words come up. And if we're talking about movement. So pretty much we want, before we do this, we can't do anything unless we tell the program what we're working with. So in this case, you can work with motors, analog sensors, or digital sensors. We're really just going to work with motors. So what type of motor are we using? The ones that we ordered are called VEX393, and we'll name this motor 1. We'll click apply. Sometimes it gets a little quirky if you just name it motor. So you have to usually put a number with it, motor 1. You also can't put any spaces. So I can't put motor space 1. You just have to write motor 1. So that's something. Now I put that, you might notice in the top, it's now not blank.